Hey guys, what's going on? It's Warpath 2 or Adam, and today we're going to be talking about the legacy of Black Ops 2. So I did this video, this is like my second commentary ever back in Modern Warfare 3 as we were getting into Black Ops 2. It was like one of the first videos I'd made, just talking about the legacy there, and I kind of wanted to do one for Black Ops 2 as well, because there's some interesting things that happened during this cycle of Call of Duty, and some things that were good, some things that weren't good, some things people loved, and a lot of things people hated. So we're going to talk about classes, guns, the multiplayer experience, obviously connection, league play, and a few other things. So let's get started. So first thing I want to talk about is just overall the multiplayer experience. For me, Black Ops 2, for the most part, is a pretty fun game still. It's harder to have fun than it was, say, 4 or 5 months ago. When I was really kind of at my peak of enjoyment, I'd play for a few hours every night. Now I only play it every once in a while, or maybe every couple nights a week. It's not something I really focus on anymore. But as a Call of Duty game, this is the one I've put the most time into. I've played right around 320 hours according to Elite, which is mind-blowing. I probably could have done so many more productive things during that time frame. But I did spend a lot of time with multiplayer, so I feel like, from an understanding standpoint, I really experienced all the highs and the lows. But overall, I wasn't mad at it. Some days it was really bad. I couldn't get kills. Hit detection seemed way off. Definitely lots of issues with lag and connection. And some days it worked perfectly. And I was able to drop 60, 70 kills in a domination lobby, things like that. So the highs were there, the lows were there. Overall, though, for me, it was a good experience. Not great, not the best experience of my life, but definitely it was, for me, a good experience. Now, that's not to say, of course, there weren't hiccups, and we'll kind of get into those. But one of the areas I wanted to cover in this game, kind of more than any of the other Call of Duties I've ever played, was the gun variety. Now, for me, I really enjoyed the different variety of guns. Typically, when it comes to Call of Duty games, I find about 3 or 4, probably actually closer to 6 guns that I really enjoy, and I just kind of keep classes based around those. In this game, I really played with pretty much every gun. I don't think there was a single gun I didn't use at some point for at least a prestige or two. The SMGs at first were so much a ground base for every class. You really had to run with an SMG. To later on when they figured out the balancing on it, and specifically assault rifles got kind of more play. I really enjoyed what they did with the assault rifles over time. They went from being almost useless to having guns like the Type 25 that were just generic guns first, that then were a little bit better. You had better movement speed, better ADSing, things like that, and they really became a viable part of any person's class. So I think the gun selection was great. Just top 5 off the top of my head. Type 25 is in there, AN94 is in there, the M8A1 is in there, the Scorpion is definitely in there. I loved the Scorpion, and one of my favorite guns that people hated was the M1216. It's such, I don't want to call it a cheap gun, because you do have to be pretty good at getting into places to use it, because you're not just going to shoot 4 away even from far away and get a kill. Just the damage is so low for each of those pellet spreads. But God, that was such a fun gun to use. And then I'll give kudos to Treyarch for trying to balance the weapons. Sometimes they were very off on their balancing. Sometimes they were very on. And I think, unfortunately, one of the bigger balancing, not missteps, but things that they're going to be remembered for is the sniper balance. I personally didn't see a huge deal with it, but I'm not a sniper. I could see where somebody who quick scopes all the time would be frustrated with it. But for me, it wasn't personally a big deal. I thought it was kind of crazy, the reaction, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who acted more rationally but were just upset about it. But I feel like they did a really good job overall balancing the weapons, balancing the damage, the distance, the recoil, the hip fire spreads, all of those things. I say I would grade Treyarch at an A+ on for doing that. Again, not all perfect, but the fact that they went in and kept doing those things up until pretty close to the end, pretty great. And then, of course, there were certain things that were always frustrating. Perk-wise, there was always Flak Jacket. Flak Jacket, great perk if you're using it, frustrating perk if you're playing against it. Even in games like Hardcore Search, you could hit somebody dead in the chest with a C4, and sometimes they wouldn't die, which is insane. So that was always a frustration for me, but I think it's more of just a personal thing. And then the Target Finder. So they were really good about making sure that we all knew that that Last Stand and Dead Man's Hand, cheap perks like that weren't going to be in the game. But then they throw in the Target Finder. I used the Target Finder when I was frustrated, and I realized that if you have an OMG Target Finder, there's no reason you shouldn't be getting 30 or 40 kills around. And then it dawned on me that the people that were using those classes, typically, not all, of course, but a lot of people I played were bad because they were getting like 10 kills with it. It's not hard to use. The Target Finder's there for a reason, and that's to kind of help you with your reflexes as someone comes around a corner. So for me, really cheap. I didn't like using it. I didn't like seeing it. And that's going to be one of the negative marks on their legacy over time. Map design, maps themselves were pretty good. A lot of the DLC was not. A couple of standout maps there. But really overall, even the reimagined maps weren't that great. So map design, I'd say they're probably about a C. Not very great, not bad. But a lot of the original maps are pretty good. And I will say this, Standoff, in my opinion, is hands down one of the best made maps in Call of Duty. There's a lot of camping spots in Standoff, but there's always a way around those camping spots. I can't tell you how many snipers I pissed off because I knew exactly where they'd be. And how many times I've just shot them across the map with an M8A1. It's so much fun, so much better. And then with map design, I feel like they moved in the right direction, but what they kind of did that frustrated me is they didn't tailor their maps to game modes. You have like Kill Confirmed, which is best played on medium to small maps, in my opinion. If you put Kill Confirmed on a long map, it's going to be a very, very, very slow game. We're talking 5 minutes into it, and the other team has 20 points because people are just camping. So putting it on a small map or a medium map that puts pressure on people to move out of the spawn and out of their area is always the best way. So I think they kind of misstepped on that. But overall, again, my multiplayer experience, I'd give it about a B. And then there was League Play. League Play was a big part of Call of Duty. Now, whether people want to admit it or not, League Play was important to Call of Duty. Not necessarily because everyone played it, but because it helped build the MLG scene. Now, I want to say what happened with League Play is they had one of the first official seasons in League Play, and they took people from the League Play seeds that were top teams and placed them into MLG qualifiers. And I believe that's where Impact originally came from, was they were picked up off of League Play, invited to an invitational tournament, and played there. And that led to a whole bunch of other teams gaining popularity, and truthfully the whole scene of MLG gaining popularity. Now, I know we're on League of Legends side where they're selling out 10,000 seat stadiums, but it's good to see that there's a separate facet to Call of Duty that's been created that's going to help build the game and franchise over time. You can't always rely on YouTubers, unfortunately. You can't always rely on pub stars. League Play helps build that. So League Play for me is a good thing. But let's talk about the final part of this. And this is the one thing that I truly, overwhelmingly believe that not only did they fail at, they failed spectacularly at, and that is connection. I really can't say anything more than this is an epic failure. This was not just a failure to make the connection appropriate, it was a failure to understand the needs of the community. So I get how they make their matchmaking. They want it to be location-based first versus connection compatibility. Because location is going to give you a better ping. That's really what matters. Your upload and download are kind of important, but it's your ping that truly matters. If I have a 10 millisecond ping, though, and I connect to somebody, I'm in Dallas, so 2 blocks away from me, who has a 30 millisecond ping and they get host, that's a really bad situation for me. And that's usually what I had, is 10 milliseconds. So for me, it was very frustrating in that aspect, that I had better internet, but I get punished because people don't have the same tier as me. So I'm really hoping with Ghost and the dedicated servers, it's going to be a lot better for me, because I'm going to be connected to a geographical server that's closest to me, that has great ping, versus some guy who's using as we like to say, well, Walmart or McDonald's Wi-Fi for their internet. But it was an epic failure. They failed to understand how much the community truly hated the connection. Then they did the connection surveys, which after 320 hours of the game, I never got one. So I don't think they really took it as seriously as they should have. But it's a tough spot for them too, because you can't just go changing the netcode completely in the middle of a game. So, I mean, what do you do at that point? So for that, obviously they get an F. But again, kind of the overall legacy I think that Black Ops 2 is going to leave, if I was going to sum this up, which I am because this video is already 10 minutes, it was a good game. On paper, it had a lot of really great concepts, a lot of great innovations, and most of them were well executed. But the things that were poorly executed, like connection, some of the attention to the community when it comes to gun preferences, things like that, and the ability to make better decisions on creating what the community wants, will be what changes this from being a great game to a good game, or in some cases a bad game. So I think there's a lesson to be learned here, that you do create a game and it's going to get millions and trillions and billions of dollars of sales or whatever it is, but if you don't listen to the community, you're going to have problems later on. Look at Ghost. Ghost has not been hyped really at all, and I think there's a lot of other factors that go into that, but that's another commentary for another time. But Ghost is not as hyped right now as Call of Duty Black Ops 2 was at the same time. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. If there's something else that really bothered you about the game that I didn't touch on, tell me about that too, and we'll talk about it. But I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Once again, my name is Warpath2 or Adam, and you guys take it easy.